Hello. Welcome to All Things Social Security. Just another share today about how sometimes the SSA makes mistakes when they offset your Social Security disability due to whatever, in this instance, workers' comp, where there was a necessary offset due to the 80% rule. We do have videos on the basics of that. I don't practice workers' comp law. However, it's a nasty little bug that interferes with Social Security disability sometimes. So when it does, sometimes we have to try to fix it. So that prior video was about someone who SSA assumed they had years of workers' comp payments, and workers' comp being often a much bigger payer of temp wages than Social Security disability, it largely wiped out the fellow's 3 years of back benefits. It was like $90,000. So the fact was he hadn't received any workers' comp during the period in which he could get back benefits for Social Security disability. He had received workers' comp for maybe 6 months prior to any entitlement to Social Security disability benefits. And because the offset goes month by month and they do the calculation per month where you got both payments, he shouldn't have had any offset. So we did what I would call I guess, a non-medical appeal, because you're not appealing the medical decision. You're only appealing the subsequent numbers, game calculations at the field office or an office other than the field office who does the calculations, nothing to do with medical work up at the state agency, appealing that particular thing, no medical finding interference whatsoever. And that's an important point, because if they were to be able to poke into medical, that would be a huge risk. Anyway, they can't. So the most recent case win with a workers' comp offset had to do with actually a proper offset. And it's a huge offset. I have another video as to why you still file for Social Security disability, even though it can be largely offset. Most of my cases that involve workers' comp don't have offsets because of the way the numbers work out or the timeframes in which someone got workers' comp versus Social Security disability. But once in a blue moon, they do overlap horribly. So in this case, it legitimately did overlap. So the person is getting a really tiny Social Security disability check because she's still receiving the workers' comp. And this workers' comp tends to hurt people who are on the lower income side, not the wealthier earners. So in any event, the problem with this one was, after explaining to her what we saw, how the numbers panned out, and just so she would be, firm in understanding, and how they would be ending soon. She is in her 60s. So the workers' comp offset doesn't last forever. And then you're glad you have the higher Social Security amount in your retirement that you get because you did the disability before. But the problem was, for a spell a few years ago, workers' comp just stopped paying her temp wages for the better part of a year. Then they resumed. There was no correction. They never returned the money that they withheld from her. And so technically there is say 8 or 9 months of Social Security benefits that should have been paid in full. This could be $10,000 missing from inappropriately offsetting those months, because SSA, can you hear those dogs? There must be someone outside. SSA assumed the temp payments went on properly from workers' comp for all those years and didn't have this big fart in the middle where they didn't pay, to the tune, again, of probably $10,000. So we're going over that now. I believe, why not get that that offset paid back the proper amount of Social Security paid. Because you don't know if workers' comp is ever going to pay. And if you're going for settlement, are they really going to make that up? You know how that's all kind of some big gelled thing. So anyway, we're determining now, does she bother appealing? It's a non-medical appeal, so it's really not complicated. I have the printout from the workers' comp payments from the carrier that show this big gap. It's like a ledger. And to appeal, I would be doing a letter saying we're appealing non-medically, just your calculations, because there was no workers' comp during this period to this period. Please see attached ledger. So it's not a complicated appeal. It's not like I have to go and do, 100 hours of medical workup like you do for the medical battle we do, where it's, slave labor. That's not what this would be. So we're probably going to do it. In the end, it's her decision, but I don't see it. To me, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. The glitches of calculations after you win, when they're calculating, if you have offsets, make sure that you have the right ones. I don't even recall how the conversation evolved when we were discussing her benefits check and how eventually the offset would end, blah, blah, blah. And of course, now she'll get Medicare and all this other good stuff. But how did it even arise that she remembered to tell me that a few years ago they stopped for 8 months with no explanation? And when we look back to when the SSD has been, her back benefits were due, and the offset applied to every single month, when there's 8 months when it shouldn't have applied, that was kind of just a fruitful conversation, because it's not typical that this would happen. Like the first case I was talking about, which we do have a video too. I'll try to plug it up there. It was obvious because the guy had no workers' comp for years, and suddenly he was getting almost zero Social Security disability for the time being, no back benefits. When doing the numbers, it should have been many, many thousands. Like I said, almost 6 figures. So we did get that corrected, thankfully. This one wasn't as evident, but it just, it makes me think, well, Joe, maybe now every time there's a workers' comp offset, and again, not that I practice any other workers' comp, but might have to at least delve in there and make sure if it's a significant offset. Like, these are probably the only 2 where there's a significant offset that I've seen in many, many years. Many years. It just doesn't happen when I'm practicing Social Security disability, which is good for me and good for them. But here it is. So we'll have to have a way of just having this extra question for anyone who has an offset. If they don't have an offset, then it doesn't matter. It's not an issue. But if they do, is it the correct one? Is there anything obvious that you should tell me about that would show that this might not be correct? Anyway, so we'll probably appeal this, maybe, it's up to her, and get it resolved and get her that extra 10 grand or so. Minus attorney fee, of course. And that's a little tiny chunk. All right, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.